It's now my pleasure to go ahead and introduce a couple of my colleagues who will be presenting today. As you'll notice, this is an all-female panel today, and we have opted to go ahead and focus on all four of these faculty in recognition of Women's History Month as well, too. So thank you again for joining us. We have Jody Stanionis-Hopper, who is the Chair and Associate Professor of Art. We have Courtney Lang, who is an Assistant Professor of Communication. We have Alison Miner, who is the Senior Lecturer in Hospitality Management, and we have Dr. Amy Parenti, who is an Associate Professor of Chemistry and Biology. With that being said, it is now an opportunity to go ahead and have students interact with our faculty once our introductions have taken place. Alison, would you mind starting with our introductions?
Sure. As Andrea previously said, my name is Alison Miner. Officially, in a couple days here, it'll be my 11th year teaching here at Mercyhurst. I teach in the Hospitality Management Department. There are 3 full-time faculty, 2 part-time faculty, and an adjunct. We focus broadly on the hospitality industry in our department. We have concentrations in food and beverage management, in hotel management, and in event service management. I specialize in the event service management, and my colleagues each specialize in one of the other concentrations. It's a great major. We have about 85 majors to date this year. It's been really exciting to kind of meld our major to this online virtual world for this past year. We're really excited to have everybody come back to more in person, as Andrea said, whether you come to visit us on campus in person or come back to more in person class styles. But it really has been a wild ride this past year, but we're really proud of our department and how we've been able to adapt to these changes.
Thanks, Allison. I appreciate that. Amy, would you mind starting with your introduction?
Sure. Hi, my name is Amy Parenti, and I'm Associate Professor in Chemistry and Biochemistry. I'm also the former Associate Dean of the Zurn College, so I could probably answer questions about any of the programs that are within our Zurn College of Natural and Health Sciences. We've got programs ranging from associate degree programs all the way up to graduate programs. So everything from traditional sort of science fields like chemistry, biology, biochemistry, geology, physics, and then we have more applied sort of health professions fields, everything from nursing to our graduate program in physician assistant to programs in sports medicine and public health. So I teach chemistry freshmen, and I teach biochemistry majors as seniors. So I kind of run the gamut. Happy to speak to at some point about opportunities that we have for students to do research with faculty within our departments.
Thanks, Amy. I appreciate that. Jody, would you mind introducing yourself?
Greetings, everyone. I'm Jody Stanionis-Hopper, and I'm in the art department. As chair of the art department, I oversee 3 full-time faculty, 2 part-time faculty, and a slew of full-time artists that come in and teach as adjuncts. We have 4 majors in the art department. We have art therapy, art education, graphic design, and studio. We number about 120 majors and minors. We have more minors. We have photography. We have art history. There's also arts administration. So we have a large variety of media, everything from computer media, which is what I teach. I teach the Adobe programs, things like Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign. All the way through to, we have oil painting coming up this fall, figure drawing, ceramics. So just every kind of art you could imagine, we try and get it into the classroom, combining both the digital and the analog or traditional methods.
Thanks, Jody. I appreciate that. And last but definitely not least, Courtney, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Courtney Lang. I am a strategic communication specialist. I am an assistant professor in the communication department. I serve right now as the associate chair, but will be the chair next year. So if you're joining us as a freshman, I would be your chair if you were with us. And I am in process of finishing my doctorate at Vanderbilt University. I'm so close, I can taste it. My specialization is communication at the professional level with neurodivergent employees. And so we have quite a few students in our area who come from the AIM program or who are part of the AIM program here at Mercyhurst. And some of that is tied to our relationship and also my research background that overlaps, intersects with that particular area. In communication, we have our integrated media, our main major, and then we also have a communication minor as well as a web and social media minor, and that sits actually across our department as well as Jody's department. And so we've it built out that if you are art, you focus on communication, and if you're communication, you focus on art for that particular minor. So it's a really great relationship there. In fact, one of the things that drew me to Mercyhurst was that we aren't as siloed as many other universities are. And so I loved that I could work with my colleagues and build minors and build relationships and double majors across multiple departments and even across colleges. Our department sits inside of Ridge College, which is intelligence and applied sciences. And so we are part of that applied aspect, which means we have a lot of practicum and experiential learning, which, although challenging over the last year, we have found ways, and again, I'll point at Jody, including with the art department, to make sure that our students met those particular requirements and goals that we have for them despite COVID going on. So if you are interested in communication as a single or a double major or a minor, we're always happy to meet with you. And we cover the gamut from analytics all the way through broadcast. So if it's communication focused, odds are you will meet with us.
Awesome. Courtney, thanks so much for that overview. While you were talking, you brought up some great points. You talked a lot about double majoring and or minoring in things. Can you talk a little bit about whether or not that's common amongst students at Mercyhurst, and if it's essential that students know what they want to double major in or minor in as soon as they come to Mercyhurst?
Yeah, actually, we see in our area quite a few double majors. In fact, we did a intensive research and then restructuring of our major a few years ago because we want to make sure that what we're providing for students isn't just what we know, but what students need. And so we are we're very cognizant that the double majors have become more and more popular over the years, and Mercyhurst has, in a lot of ways, made it more flexible for students to meet those goals, particularly what the advent of REACH, that program, that change to that 30 credits happened right as I was getting here. And it's been, from what I've heard from students, it's been a boon. It's been very helpful and it's made things a lot easier. And so we have in our area, the majority of our doubles are either graphic design, pointing back at Jody again, dance. We have quite a few dance and communication double majors. And that also ties into that arts administration area there. And then in the last few years, we've seen an increase in data science and communication double majors, as well as history or history and pre-law, poli-sci, those sorts of areas. We're seeing more and more of our students go into either the arts or government or law. It's a really interesting split how that's going recently.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Jody, I know that Courtney referenced you a lot while she was speaking. In your opinion, is it okay if students change their path while they're here? I think that sometimes students come to Mercyhurst thinking, this is what I want to do. And then as they kind of navigate that REACH curriculum, which is our word for essentially the liberal arts core curriculum, they might decide, hey, this is an interest I didn't know I had. Are those things okay for students to kind of develop once they get to Mercyhurst?
Absolutely. In fact, we encourage people who are coming in that if they have a little interest in the arts, declare it as a major or a minor with whatever, or if you're not sure, don't worry about it, because the best thing to do is to take a class and explore and discover what it really is, not what you think it is. Because a lot of times people think, oh, that I can't do that. I can't draw stick people. Well, that doesn't mean you can't be a designer. Designers work very differently. Yes, we have to take drawing, but you get trained in it. And a lot of times it's time on task and learning things. That's what education really is it's you're learning. And sometimes when you learn, it's challenging. That's what it's supposed to be. So yeah, I actually say to students, don't so much worry about that really until you're in your later sophomore year. You can get away with a lot of reach classes and exploring, taking a class in HRIM, taking some more sciences, taking some arts, going to um, and finding where your niche is. Because like Courtney said, it's usually not just this one thing. It's usually this thing and this thing and a little bit of that thing. We had a student who majored in graphic design, minored in marketing, and minored in fashion, and now works for L'Oreal in New York City, promoting their men's line, L'Oreal's men's line. So that's was his interest. He got there by being creative and putting things together, putting different things together that he liked. Okay. And we're all advisors here, I believe. We probably all, yep, look, we're all nodding our head. We all talk with students. If you're my advisee and you're like, I don't know if this is working, I say, let's explore. What do you like? What do you don't like? What are you good at? What do you find to be a struggle? Okay, let's see. Because I have actually been at Mercyhurst for 23 years. Longer
So you're
than
25, right, Jody?
Huh?
So you're 25, right, Jody?
Right, I'm 25. I've been here since I was 2. So, so yeah, it's great. College is meant for exploration. So don't feel like you have to have it nailed down, locked down tight. Because sometimes you get here or wherever, and you go, oh, but there's that shiny thing over there that I'm really interested in. Go towards the shiny thing. All right.
Great advice. I appreciate that. Alison, can you talk a little bit? Oh, sorry. Go right ahead, Amy.
I was gonna jump on and just say, and that is especially true in the sciences too, where you have an idea of what it means to do something in science because that's what you saw on television, right? And then you get here and you're like, oh, that's not really what it was, or you're pleasantly surprised that it's something different. And one of the things that we do at, advising our students is in a hyper competitive, health professional world, we try to have you create a unique portfolio about yourself that allows you to stand out from other candidates, whether it's going to graduate school or medical school or veterinary school. And the connections that we have with our students really allow us to do that, and the opportunities that we're able to provide with them, whether it's doing hands-on research with us or having internship opportunities, or there's just so many things that allow you to make yourself unique. And I think that's a really positive thing that Mercyhurst does well.
And I think, again, kind of along those same points is that our faculty not only get to know students really well, but they also know each other as colleagues. So again, as they're having those conversations with students, they're not afraid to call somebody in a different discipline to say, could this work? And how can we make it work? Because this is the goal for the student. We recognize that we have wonderful degree paths that we have laid out for everybody, but not everybody fits into all of those exact degree paths that we have. And I think Mercyhurst recognizes that it's important to meet students along the way at their educational goals. They're investing a lot of time and a lot of money. So again, our goal is to make that experience positive for them, but then also set them on a path to be successful when they do eventually have to leave Mercyhurst, which for some of our students, especially our seniors this time of year, is approaching much too quickly. Alison, can you talk a little bit about roughly how many classes students would take each term, and typically what a schedule looks like in terms of maybe Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and Tuesdays and Thursdays?
Sure. Typically, with our freshman students, at least in our major, and I'm sure that it resonates a little bit in everybody else's, they take about 4 classes a semester. Now with how we are aligned, and I know that nobody else remembers the J term besides those of us on the screen. So my apologies to those joining us, but we had transitioned from trimesters to semesters 5 or 6 years ago, ladies, right? And so that kind of throws me that we have students now that have no idea what it was, but we are now on these traditional semesters. So we have our students take 4 to 5 classes a semester. Some of ours in our major are 4 because we have lab experiences, much like Amy and much like Jody. I'm assuming it works the same way in the arts with laboratory or studio experiences. Yes, yes. So some of our semesters are only 4 classes just because of the time constraints of those classes. Other semesters, our students will take 5 classes to make sure that they get their 120, 121, 120 credits. I always remember, it's one of those numbers, right? Our students are always over that, so I'm like, oh, you got enough. But to make sure that they are on track for graduation, all of us, and I'm speaking on behalf of all these other wonderful ladies, keep our advisees on track to make sure that graduation, happens on time. And in our departments, we have not a set schedule, but a diagram of when you should take what classes and when, just so that it's a suggestion, obviously, so that you stay on track for those 4 years and you're out on your scheduled allotment. But it doesn't have to be that way. We have a lot of students that our department gets a lot of transfers going along, as Jody said, to kind of sample the pool. We get a lot of students as sophomores and even first semester juniors coming to our major to transfer in. And so whether you start with us as a freshman or you come to us as a junior, we can take what you already have and really adjust that to how you come into our major, and then really focus your classes on our major specifically to make sure that you can still get the degree you wish to have in the time you had originally planned it, as best as we can, obviously.
Thanks, Allison. And go right ahead, Amy.
Well, I was just going to jump on and say, I think of it like we provide a roadmap to you, but one of the things that we're really good at, to kind of coin Google, is say we're really good at rerouting. So we're really good at saying, hey, you came in, and we get a lot of transfer students from other universities, but also within majors at the university. And we're really good at making sure that we keep you within that 4-year time frame. And I think that's a testament to the interactions that we have as faculty with our students and our advisees.
And I also was going to say, I think that it's awesome at Mercyhurst that you have an advisor in your major. So you have an expert in your industry. But we also have a dual advising system at Mercyhurst. So you have an academic support counselor as well. And you can think of them a little bit more as a generalist. If you stumble into a class that maybe you're not being as successful in as you would have hoped, what resources are there available at Mercyhurst to go ahead and catch you back up to speed? Is it simply encouraging you to send an email to your faculty, to go ahead and meet with them in office hours, saying, you know what, that concept made a lot of sense in a classroom, it's just not clicking at home. Our faculty are going to go ahead and help you with that. Is it arranging for a tutor? Do you need somebody in academic support, which is closely linked to career services on our campus? Do you need somebody in the Career Development Center to go ahead and help you on your resume or honing in on your interviewing skills? Again, all of those people are here for you. So to know that 2 people are continually guiding you on not only your education, but also beyond at Mercyhurst, really, I think, make sure that people are in and out of here in 4 years, whether they're just majoring in one area, whether they're a major and a minor, whether they're a double major, whether they have 2 minors. Again, all of that can be accomplished a lot of times within 4 years. While Allison mentioned the minimum amount of credits that students can take each term is typically 12, some students will take up to 18 so that, again, they can get those extra majors or minors in while they're here. I've done a lot of talking, so I just wanted to go ahead and say to our prospective students and families that have joined us, if you have any questions, please feel free to utilize the chat. I can assure you that my faculty here would definitely love to hear from you and answer any questions that you do have as well, too. Amy, you talked a lot about research opportunities in the sciences. If any of our students were interested in obtaining those research opportunities, how do they go ahead and get noticed by faculty?
Well, usually it can happen sort of in your freshman year where, whether it's an intro biology class, an intro chemistry class that you're taking, often, we're super excited about the research that we do. So we often try to integrate it a little bit into our curriculum. And we know all of our students very well. So I usually put a pitch in, with our majors as freshmen, that if anybody wants to come in and just play in the lab for a little bit, doesn't need to be anything formal. I've got, sophomores, juniors, seniors that are there that are doing research projects. So just stop by sometime, kind of hang out for the afternoon, kind of see what we're doing. So there is sort of that informal piece to it. There's also a more formal part. We have all of our juniors are required to take at least an 8-week research experience. And that ensures, we like to think of it like you've at least tried the vegetables. If you don't like them afterwards, you don't have to do research. Some of our students who are interested in med school and so forth, they're like, yeah, no, research is not for me, doing the actual research. And so that's an opportunity to sort of test the waters. And then students, if they want after that, or even before that, could sign up for credit for research. I have a student right now who she is one of our minors, and she's taking 3 credits of research. So she's with me a lot during the day to kind of get some research done. And then even beyond that, we encourage students between their junior and senior year to apply for some type of an external research experience. The National Science Foundation often has what we call research experiences for undergraduates, REUs, and that allows you to go to a large research institution and participate in a 10-week research project that you actually get paid to do. So some really neat opportunities that we have to engage our students, not only in our own scholarship and research, but to connect them with other institutions that are doing kind of phenomenal research.
Thanks, Amy. I appreciate that. Looks like there's a question in the chat that you might be able to help with. If somebody were to double major potentially in sports medicine and biology, is there a way to combine research in those 2 areas?
That's a really good question. And I would say, if you're interested in sports medicine, you actually do take a tremendous amount of biology. So I think, and our sports medicine curriculum is one that's a little bit fuller than some of our other ones. So I don't know about majoring in biology as much, but certainly there are, I know all the faculty over there, and that, you know, if there's a way that we could sort of combine research interests and the ability to perform certain experiments or techniques, you know, I'm certainly all about that. I'm very interested in sleep research. And so, you know, the ability to connect with them and use some of the, you know, bod pods or all of the other kind of physiology type equipment that they have over there would be really interesting to me. I just haven't had the opportunity to partner yet with someone. So I think that's absolutely a possibility. And I'm going to comment, I just saw another question that came in, the difference between organic and inorganic chemistry. That's a really great question. So organic chemistry, very simply, is probably traditionally thought of as chemistry based on carbon. That's actually what my PhD is in. So I'm very familiar with organic chemistry. Inorganic tends to be things that are more you know, ionic compounds, crystalline material, things like that. We actually have an inorganic chemistry course that you can take as an upperclassman, but people traditionally think of what you do in a general chemistry course, which is very similar to probably what you would have taken as a high school chemistry course, that's probably fairly similar to, you know, that's a lot of inorganic chemistry. So I hope that answers your question.
And thanks, Amy, for that overview. I appreciate it. Alison, roughly how many students would you say are in each particular class? And does the size enable you to help get to know your students?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny because my husband is a Penn State alum, and he thinks it's funny because at Penn State he was a number. He would put A164 on a sheet, you know. And here, one of the things that I think makes us phenomenal and really helps us stand out is that we call students names in classes because the typical class size is somewhere between 20 and 30. Again, there could be classes that are lectures that are a bit more, and there could be labs. Like in our department, our labs typically only have a max of 16 students because of space. So there are obviously smaller classes and larger classes, but somewhere between 20 to 30. And it really enables us to, first of all, learn your name, which might take folks like me a couple weeks. Let's not joke. But usually by week 2, I'm pretty solid with everybody in the class. But I think that also helps with, like Jody said, you know, combining degrees and finding interests. I mean, we're your advisors, but we're also your professors. And so I think that carries across the board, whether you're in hospitality or biology or the arts or communication or Intel or sports business. I'll give John a shout out there. Aim, I know he can hear me in the background, right? So it's all the same across the board. You see us in our advising and you see us in the classroom, and that really helps us make that connection and give our students what they expected coming out of here with their education. It helps us place them in jobs because we've had a lot of interactions with them inside and outside the classroom. And I think that's really something that sets us apart from a lot of other universities.
Thanks, Allison. I appreciate that. Go ahead, Amy.
So I just wanted to, there's a question that just kind of came directly to me in the chat. So I just want to speak to it. And I'm curious what the university's sort of stance on this is, because it was a question related to, as a Catholic university, what is our sort of stance on teaching either creationism versus evolution? And truthfully, I will say that it's not something that I've ever felt an oversight on that sort of content in my field. It's not anything that my department chair, my dean, administration has ever said that it has to be, a certain way. I'll offer my own sort of personal take. I'm a scientist and I believe in evidence, and I am a very faith-based Catholic. But I believe in evolution, and that's what I teach in my classes, as much as it is relevant to thinking about science. So that's my personal take and how I teach my classes, and I think how most of my colleagues teach their classes as well. But I didn't know, Andrea, if you could speak to if there's anything that was a great question, and I guess I've never really thought about it, probably because even though we are a university founded in the Catholic tradition, it wasn't something that I felt like was an oversight in terms of our curriculum.
Yeah, I think that you kind of nailed it. I agree that, as an institution of education, a lot of what we do teach is definitely founded in evidence. And again, you probably are the expert in terms of how the sciences would approach it. But as a university as a whole, I typically like to recognize that, again, as you said, we are founded by the Sisters of Mercy, who are obviously a Catholic order. So I always tell students, if you are looking to come to Mercyhurst and grow in your Catholic faith, there are opportunities to do so. With that being said as well, too, the Sisters of Mercy, in my opinion, sometimes are viewed as the first group of non-cloistered, rebel-rousing nuns. They were out there helping populations that were not always well received by other parts of the public. Women and children were important to them, and those are important to us. But as an institution, it's also important for us to afford opportunities to people that haven't been granted experiences at Mercyhurst. So how can we continue to do better, not only at Mercyhurst, but as a community at large as well too? So beyond our Mercyhurst University gates, if you haven't had an opportunity to physically tour Mercyhurst, we have wonderful gates in front of our university. So we're trying to make a difference inside those gates and outside as well too. And again, I think that we hold true to our Catholic principles. But again, when you come to Mercyhurst, we want to not only expose you to Catholic beliefs, but as you fulfill part of the REACH curriculum, you might take Hinduism or Buddhism or more marriage and family practices. And again, all of those topics have an opportunity to kind of expand your belief system potentially, or at least provide you with opportunities to have a healthy discussion. Our goal isn't to go ahead and make everybody think the same way at the end of any course, but it is to make you think. Again, how can you recognize people's differences? How can you continue to get along with them? How can we continue to help each other grow? That, I think, is really what Mercyhurst recognizes and does well. If anybody is looking to go ahead and chat with campus ministry too about growing in your Catholic faith, I would say we would be happy to share that information with you. I will also let you know that sometimes campus ministry is referred to on our campus as the living room of campus, because again, there are students there that just feel an opportunity to be welcomed regardless of what their faith truly is. I think Mercyhurst does a great job connecting people with each other, and again, making everybody feel welcome and find their place here. Other questions?
We could address perhaps more experiential learning and study abroad. One of the reasons I wanted to bring that up is because in our particular area in art, one of my colleagues, who's also a graphic design instructor such as myself, he teaches a GoPro class, and that GoPro class once a year goes somewhere abroad. And the assignment is to be a documentarian of your travels abroad, and you learn how to edit film, not film, but you learn how to edit video, and you have to you get a GoPro and you have to go out there and be your own sort of documentarian. And so it's a really wonderful opportunity to pair not only educational learning objectives, but also to travel, to put those two things together. Because when we travel, speaking of being open, and we learn, we engage with people. When you do that, you grow, you expand your horizons. And we found that travel abroad really does that for all people who can avail themselves of the study abroad programming. I typically do study abroad, and when I do it, it's for service learning. So a few years ago, I went, pre-COVID, went abroad with the art therapy instructor, and we went to Nepal, and we went to the Samata schools, talking thousands of students. And if you think of your classroom, think of your classroom with 50 students sitting shoulder to shoulder, and we did art with them. They taught us some traditions, Nepalese traditions, and we got to teach them some simple art experiences that they would not have had if we had not had been there. So there's a lot of interesting, exciting things. You can go to Ireland. They're just starting to gear up for future years. They just sent a survey out to those of us on the faculty of what would we like to do? What would we like to teach? Where would we like to travel? So those kinds of things can be in your future.
Two questions off of that, Jody. Do you feel that as you develop new courses and things like that at Mercyhurst, is the administration typically open to those new ideas? And do you find the university to be nimble?
Yes, I actually do find that it's fairly nimble. We did a thing in the art department, and it's called Special Topics, and it's Art 250 Special Topics colon fill in the blank. So if we want to pilot a new like 3D printing class, which we do 3D printing in our curriculum, but if we wanted to, when we wanted to pilot that, we would just have a class that would just do that, and it would be a special topics class. We just recently wanted to do an illustration class with a local illustrator. So we did special topics illustration, and it's a combination of both on the computer and illustration together. So in terms of flexibility, yes, I think, new technologies come along, and if you're willing to, as the faculty member, to embrace them, you can bring them forth into the classroom readily, very easily, much more easy than larger universities. Larger universities have to go through certain rigors to be able to present certain items. Here we have a nimbleness due to our size.
Excellent. And then Jody, my
And our
second
flaws.
question, yeah, definitely. My second question for you too, in regards to that is, are students required to have any previous travel experience before they sign up for study abroad opportunities?
Oh, not at all. In fact, one of the current students in the admissions office, former students, she's an alum, and she travels and works for Mercyhurst now. I was with her on her first travel abroad experience. She had never flown in a plane. She had never been outside of really the region. And so we went and did it was sort of like a 20-day European tour, and we went to like 5 different countries and did all sorts of different stuff. We were in England and France and Germany and Czech Republic and back to Germany, um, uh, and she never ate exotic food. To her, this was all exotic food, and she tried everything on that trip. I think Danielle had the best time because she said yes. And that's what you got to do when you travel. You've got to just, okay, yeah, I'm going to try that curry hot dog. God love her, she did.
Wow.
That's when I said the curry bomb. No.
Thanks, Jody. I appreciate that. I know we're quickly approaching our 50-minute mark. So I'm hoping that I can go ahead and ask all of our faculty 2 additional questions. If you have any questions from the prospective families and students, please don't hesitate to continue adding those into the chat. We're happy to address those as they answer my final two questions. But typically the last two questions I like to end on our faculty panel with are, why do you continue to teach at Mercyhurst? I know that we're lucky to have you, but you're often sought after by many other institutions. What makes you stay at Mercyhurst? And then what piece of advice do you have for students as they finalize or embark on their college search? Allison, would you mind starting?
I mean, I stay here because I have a window view. It's beautiful. I'm just kidding. Right? Hey, you'd be surprised. Those are coveted things in universities, windows. Embarking here on year 11, I think that I stay because it's more of a family. I am a Mercyhurst alum myself. I went here as a student and then returned later on to teach, and it's the same as I left it. Andrea mentioned earlier that, you know, part of the really making kind of new degrees out of student interest, like Jody does, or like Amy does, or like Courtney does, is because we have that rapport with faculty. And I think that Mercyhurst does a great job of bringing in faculty that still carry on that tradition of that close knit. And, you know, some places, like some people want to be a number, but I think that if you come here, that you get that personalized experience. And, you know, honestly, some of my first students a decade ago are some of my best friends now. You know, they still call you and text you and, you know, share their life with you much after they left the gates. And it's a really, I find in my own experience, it's really been one of those rewarding experiences that, you know, you teach them what you know and you make these connections, and then you get to watch them develop into these awesome human beings. And to be able to still, you know, be a part of that a decade later is really, I think, a special thing that we have going here.
Thanks, I appreciate that. And I think that sometimes our faculty feel their successes are ultimately judged by student successes as well too. So sometimes mom and dad might be the first phone call when you land that internship or that job or you become MSG president. But a lot of times that second phone call is to one of these ladies or another faculty member on campus as well too. Amy, what do you love about Mercyhurst and what advice do you have?
So all of us have these little markers that tell us how long we've been here. Mine is whatever the age of my youngest son. David is 10 and a half, so I've been here for 10 and a half years. My husband works at Mercyhurst as well. And, you know, there's a saying that we say Hurst is home. And it really is for my entire family. We really miss that lately. We used to go once a week and take the kids up and have lunch or dinner in the dining room one day a week. It was really great because I didn't have to cook that night. So, you know, I miss sort of doing that. But it really is a home. It's a home away from home, and know that when you are sending your son or daughter here, that's how we view your kids is ours. And so to think about what was your second question? And
A piece of advice that you might have as people kind of navigate the college search.
Just you're gonna be someplace where you're just gonna feel like this is it. And it sounds corny, like, you know, you put on a certain dress and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a dress. But you feel that way. And I can't tell you like how many people come here and then they say that they're like, oh my gosh, I came here and it was just, this is it. But, you know, one more piece of advice as you think about transitioning, you know, when you do get wherever you're going to end up, connect with people, right? You want to connect with students, you want to connect with staff, you want to connect with faculty. And Mercyhurst is just a phenomenal place to do all three. You know, and this we've spoken about this idea of not being a number, right? And in so many of our majors, like you might go on and do something afterwards. And so that's the time maybe to be at a big school or something like that. Now's just really this time to explore, to do all that, and to do it in a space like Mercyhurst, I just think is phenomenal, both as a faculty member and, you know, I would tell people as a prospective student.
Thanks, Amy. I appreciate that. Courtney, why do you love Mercyhurst and what advice do you have for students?
So I have been teaching, I think this is year 14 for me, and I've been at R1s, I've been at other private universities, I've been at state schools, and For me, I really love that it's a mission-driven university, and I also love the power that our students have here. And there are things that our students are able to accomplish that I certainly didn't accomplish as an undergrad, and not for lack of trying. And I also really love the open door policy and the fact that you could be in the cafeteria and see the president and the provost and several faculty members and staff, and you could just walk up to them and say hello. I've got students that I miss dearly because my spouse and I would both eat in the cafeteria for lunch every day, and that's when I would see them. They weren't even my majors. They were kids that just randomly took a comm course one year, and then they would come up to me in the cafeteria because we ate at the same time. And so I really love that open door, talking in the hallway a bit, that I've been other places and all the doors are closed and you could sit outside of them for days and not have anyone even acknowledge that you need something. And that doesn't happen here. You know, we can quickly solve problems. We know each other. We can, you know, pick up the phone and call the registrar's office and say, hey, I'm sending a kid over right now with some paperwork. And they're like, okay, we'll be looking for him. And the kid gets over there and they're like, oh, are you Bradley? They're like, yes, I'm Bradley. How do you know? Well, Professor Lang called and said you were on your way over. And you know, and so there is that camaraderie that really is helpful for our kids, our students. I always say kids, don't I? Because we do. Doesn't matter how old you are, you're one of our kids. And I'm part of the emissary program here at the university. I'm not Catholic. I wasn't raised in the Catholic tradition, and I was welcomed with open arms, and I can participate in service projects right alongside our students. And that's really powerful too. My advice in your college search is to ask a lot of questions, and don't be afraid to pick what is best for you. And I know there are probably some parents on this call. I always love it when the parents or the guardians plus the kids are really excited about Mercyhurst at the same time, because that feels like it makes it easier. And sometimes it's the silliest little thing that makes you decide to come here. We had a student one year who told us they decided to come here because the ice cream was so delicious. They came and toured campus, and we, you know, took them to lunch, and they were like, this is the best ice cream. They'd eaten ice cream on like 6 campuses, and they were like, this is so sometimes it's just the smallest thing, right? And you find yourself going, boy, I liked them all, but the ice cream was better here. So, you know, be open to trying all sorts of things, and don't be afraid to ask questions. I promise you that if you send emails or make phone calls, people will call you back, people will email you, and they'll stop and talk to you. You know, you can wander into offices. I know that our dean, if he sees kids coming through and he happens to be at the building at the same time, he'll join the tour if he's got the time to do so. So absolutely.
Thanks, Courtney. And I agree, the ice cream's good, but for me, it's the pizza and chocolate chip cookies you can't pass up in the dining hall.
Brick oven pizza.
Right, exactly. And a warm chocolate chip cookie really makes anybody's day better. Jody, after 23 years, it looks like you're the closer for today's event. Why do you love Mercyhurst, and what advice do you have for students?
I love Mercyhurst, again, community, mission. I think those are the themes that you're seeing through all of us. That feel that you belong, that somebody's going to say hi to you, even if they don't know who you are, because shortly they probably will. and that really makes a tremendous amount of difference to have somebody look you in the face and say hi, and just be friendly. It's friendly. It's an inviting campus. It's doable in terms of the size and getting places to, getting to your classes and all those kinds of things. Accessibility is good. The advice I would give is do what you love. Don't do what somebody else thinks you ought to do. Do what you love. Money follows that. Do what you love. So that's my closing thought.
Thank you, Jody. I appreciate that. To our faculty that joined us today, you're incredible. I appreciate all the support you give admissions. My piece of advice for everybody today is to know that we recognize this isn't a perfect substitute for having you on campus. We are doing our very best to continue to engage with everybody in this virtual world until we have an opportunity to welcome everybody to campus. When it is safe to do so. We have some limited number of in-person visit opportunities right now for seniors looking to go ahead and enroll this coming fall. As the pandemic continues to get better, we hope to be able to welcome even more and more students. But please know that we also know that no two college searches are exactly the same. And I think the admissions office, as well as the rest of the institution, is here with you on your journey to find your perfect college. So if you have any questions that arise as you go through your college search, please never hesitate to reach out to us. We are happy to go ahead and answer your question and or point you in the direction to somebody who can better answer your question. In addition, I wanted to let you know that when you go to Mercyhurst or any other college or university, there are lots of opportunities. Go ahead and take advantage of those opportunities. Put yourself in maybe a spot that you never thought you would be in. A lot of times I think people at Mercyhurst say growth happens when you're comfortably uncomfortable. So go ahead and choose some activities that you know well and that you have a passion for when you come to Mercyhurst. But again, be open to finding new passions along the way when you get here. I hope that you enjoyed meeting some of our faculty. I know that they always enjoy talking to not only our current students, but meeting prospective students and their families too. Until we have an opportunity to welcome everybody back on campus, I wish everybody a wonderful weekend. Stay well and carpe diem. Thanks again for joining us today.
Bye, everyone. It was nice to meet you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.